So Ryan was a real funny guy. If you knew him for 10 minutes, you knew that about him. One day in particular, me and Ryan used to meet for morning coffee, and we would tell each other what we dreamt the night before and what we were thinking about. And one morning we were out of coffee, and I was tired and craving caffeine, and so was Ryan. And we had a disagreement about who was supposed to take out the trash from our house. And so I'm just cranky, and I just decided, all right, that's it, I'm taking out the trash, I'm going to class. So, I made this big deal about something that wasn't big, and I had upset myself. But as I'm taking the trash out to our corner, I set it down, I turn around and face our porch, and Ryan is standing there in just his boxers, his socks, and a cowboy hat, and said, thanks, partner, and then made young motions at me and blew the smoke off his face. In addition to that, just showing what kind of humor he had, it also shows that part about him that I was privileged enough to see, in the fact that he just really cared for people. He saw that I was upset and frustrated about something so stupid, and he went out of his way, because he knew it would make me laugh. He went out of his way to do that, just to cheer me up for my day, and, it's just one of many things I never got to thank him for. One day I stumbled across a book by C.S. Lewis called Mere. He always made fun of me for my voice cracking. Called Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. If you haven't read it, I would recommend it to you. It played an important role in both me and Ryan's coming to faith. In it, C.S. Lewis basically argues for the case for Christianity, why you should believe in it. And after reading this, I was thoroughly convinced, intellectually, that Christianity is true and that I wanted it for myself. And so me and Ryan had lots of conversations about that. Some of my favorite memories are us sitting on our porch, watching thunderstorms roll in, and just talking about God, and about Lewis, and about mere Christianity. And through these conversations, I think Ryan was convinced intellectually too, and that was all that I hoped for. However, Ryan took it a step farther. I was happy to be convinced intellectually, to put it in a box, to have it be another hobby, something I did on the weekends, on Sundays, and talked about then, and maybe if it came up in conversation. But Ryan knew he couldn't live that way. He knew that if he was going to do it, he was going to do it the whole way, and he did. He made it the center of his life. He made it the lens through which he saw the world. He made it the filter through which he spoke. And when you make such a radical change like that in your priorities and your goals, it's going to change you. And it changed Ryan, changed him drastically. And if you just knew him in high school and didn't get a chance to know him in his last years, you missed it. You missed something great, something beautiful, and it's happy to be a part of it. Once he decided to do it and he was changed, he ministered to me from then on. You couldn't look at him without seeing contentment and a joy that wasn't there before. I remember multiple times walking into his room unannounced to find him on his knees praying. He wasn't embarrassed that I saw him humbling himself for his God. In addition to seeing actions like that, we also had meaningful conversations. Ryan was always very direct to ask me about how I was doing spiritually, how God was working in my life, how he saw God work in his. Luckily, we had these conversations often. We would frequently drive the long drive from Carbondale up here to Batavia together, alone in the car. And if you've ever driven that, it's long and it's boring, and there's not much to do. But somehow with Ryan it went fast. Somehow with Ryan it was enjoyable when we were coming back down to school from spring break, and we realized this would probably be the last time we were making this trip together. We joked about maybe we should make it longer, maybe we should take a detour. And I wish we did. I'd like to preface this last story by letting you know that Brian wasn't fearless about everything. In addition to being afraid of losing his mother at a young age, he also had an intermittent but intense fear of bugs. The week before he died, we went hiking at Little Grand Canyon, where we had been many times before. Flying around us for most of the time was these huge black beetles that I had never seen before. And Brian was dodging and swinging his hands, and I was teasing him about it. I said, "Brian, they're probably not going to hurt you." And he said, "Yeah, probably, but I don't know that for sure." And so, with James' story about when we were leaving, after James stopped creepily following us on the road, we started having one of our talks, one of our serious in-depth talks, where we were talking about our futures, what we were going to do after college, and he talked about all of the hassles and the difficulties that he was going to face, all the stress with his decisions, his need and his want to be used by God, but uncertainty about how God was going to call him and use him. And in the course of that discussion, Ryan said, jokingly, kind of, that it would be a lot easier if he could just die. It would be a lot easier if he could just go and be in paradise, and that he wouldn't have to worry about any of these stresses, and he wouldn't have to worry about just stumbling and falling in his faith, that it would be over, and that he would be with his Lord. And with the bugs, he wasn't sure if they were going to hurt him or not, but with his death, he was sure that it was going to be great. He was convinced, he was positive, and that gave him peace and confidence in that. At the same time, that sentiment might seem kind of selfish, that while Brian is gone and is perfected and is enjoying himself thoroughly, that leaves the rest of us here with hurt in our hearts and missing his presence and his laughter. So what would Ryan want his death to mean to us? I believe that Ryan would want his death to mean the same thing that he wanted his life to mean. He wanted all of his actions and everything that he did would go to glorifying God. And he would want his death to do the same thing. And so, if you just leave here sad, if you just leave here remembering Ryan, wishing that he was around so he could tell you a joke, I don't think that's it. I think that this is a great opportunity for all of us to examine ourselves, our lives. What are we living for? What are we doing? And most importantly, something me and Ryan talked about often was, are we satisfied? Is this it? Is this what we're satisfied with? Whether it's working, whether it's traveling, it doesn't matter. Does that satisfy you? And Ryan wasn't satisfied until he found his faith. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Ryan came and he rested, and as a result, he was a blessing to everyone he met and everyone he knew. Oftentimes in worship, me and Ryan would joke about feeling like robots, that we couldn't connect emotionally in worship like we saw somebody around us. But now that he's gone, I can feel, and I'm not sure if I like it. And I wish that he was around to talk to us about it. Thank you.